Apple Gaming SE news and opinions for December 3rd through December 9th, opening with talking about subs. I am at 57 subs. That's up 7 in 1 week. I think that's my largest growth in a single week to date. So thank you so much. That is, I don't know what percentage that is. It's got to be like 15% growth in a week. That's awesome. That's amazing. I think I have to give credit to Sonic Dream Team, my Sonic Dream Team videos, because that seems to have driven a lot of attention this week. So thank you everyone for subscribing. You are appreciated so very much, and I hope that I can keep doing things that entertain you and that keep bringing you back. So tell your friends, tell your family, share the page for my channel, and I appreciate you all very, very much. Okay, since I did an emergency or an extra news broadcast about this on Thursday, I'm going to start out with this. The news from this week is that as of Friday, Beeper Mini has been shut down. So womp womp. Mac Rumors and 9 to 5 Google both reported on this. Essentially, the short version of it is that Apple figured out how to block the Beeper Mini service. So for all of the pedantics on X Twitter who said that Apple wouldn't be able to figure out who was using a spoof device because it was using a quote-unquote legitimate serial number or UUID, you weren't paying attention in the first lesson. That's my video from Thursday. Both Beeper and JJ Tech published explainers as to how the reverse engineering was working, plus the PyPush script that Beeper bought the rights to is open source, and part of them buying the rights to it was to agree to keep it open source. So guess what, guys? Apple's got the code. Like, did you really think they wouldn't understand how it was working? Do you really believe that Apple doesn't know what it's doing with its own technology? That Apple couldn't go line by line seeing what packages would be sent and from where? That Apple wouldn't be able to track the data types coming into iMessage servers, or wouldn't be able to determine was and wasn't a legitimate Apple device? I know that Beeper Mini said that they, as of yesterday, they are working on a fix for this, but the reality is that Beeper Mini is like a version 1.0 product. It doesn't do a lot of the features that iMessage has, like gaming, for example. Emotions and like the on-screen interactions, lasers and celebrations and stuff like that. Beeper Mini can't do any of that. I don't imagine it would be too difficult for Apple to be able to engineer a type of check into whatever system is sending the iMessage and seeing if it supports these features. And if it does, then it's probably a legitimate Apple device. And if it doesn't, then it's probably not. So I mean, if nothing else, Apple could simply look at all these sudden activations of metadata and see what serial numbers or UUIDs was doing the activation, and if they had occurred within the last 72 hours, and just nuke that serial number. When I worked at Apple, we were quite well aware of spoofed serials used by the Hackintosh crowd. Heck, I built a Hackintosh while I worked at Apple. Apple knows which serials are legit and which ones aren't. Where do you think these serial numbers come from? Apple has something like a master database. I don't know what the back end of it looks like. I don't know how exactly Apple determines what serial numbers are legitimate, but they track these things. So just, for all of the haters, just give Apple a little credit, okay? And don't put too much faith in Beeper Mini. Like, I know you want iMessage on Android, and that's fine. I'm not saying you shouldn't want it. I'm not knocking you for your feelings, I guess, if you want to go that route. But I am saying I don't think Apple cares. So, regardless, I know there's going to be people who say, wouldn't Apple possibly block its own customers by doing this? And yes, there's a possibility for that, but that's also what Apple Care is for. You just call 1-800-MY-APPLE and tell them that iMessage isn't working for your devices and go through the troubleshooting with them. They'll verify that your serial number is a legitimate device, and then they'll re-enable iMessage for you. It's not hard. It wasn't hard for us. Like, the only thing that was hard for us was when that, 10 years ago, when that issue started, when you registered your phone number with iMessage, and then you deregistered it, or you had to switch over to an Android device or something, and your iPhone got damaged, and that's what you had on hand, so you switched to another phone, an Android phone or a Windows mobile phone. and then your serial number wasn't released. So anytime somebody with an iPhone texted you, it would try to route through iMessage but couldn't. Like, that was a big issue that we took, like, unfortunately far too long to figure out. But it did get sorted out eventually. But that's the only thing I can think of. And that was a huge lesson learned for Apple, and I think Apple's iMessage infrastructure is way better built out. So if you have issues with iMessage, it's not going to take you long to get back up and running, is what I'm trying to say. So anyway, I will say this. It doesn't look like it's going to be a court case. And Apple doesn't appear to want to sue Beeper, which is good. Shutting down spoof serials is a lot cheaper than courtroom battles, and in fairness to me, I said that Apple could, and from their perspective, should pursue litigation. But I didn't say that I believed that Apple would pursue litigation. Continuing on with some iMessage news, the EU's iMessage antitrust investigation looks to set to rule in Apple's favor. This is coming from 9to5Mac, but they are also quoting Bloomberg. Seemingly, this is another iMessage win for Apple, seemingly, just to keep that in mind. Since iMessage isn't popular with business users, it looks like they are, at least for now, going to be excluded as one of the quote-unquote dominant players in this area of tech inside of the EU. My own conspiracy theory is that Apple is working on RCS basically signaled to the EU regulators that they're willing to play ball but not give up the golden goose. Just a few short months ago, Apple was ready to kill iMessage in the UK entirely over encryption backdoor regulation that was proposed. So it seems to me that we are all underestimating just how important iMessage is to Apple. And also I should say that the EU is probably going to do further investigations into Apple come February is what it looks like. So it doesn't mean that Apple is out of the woods. They might just be getting a stay of execution for now. Moving on to somewhat more interesting news from a privacy and security point of things. Apple has revealed that push notification spying by foreign governments after an open letter. So this was not just reported on by 9to5Mac, but I linked to their story because I think it's the most concise one and is the most interesting of them to read. Macworld also has an article on this. So I want to give some big brain credit to Senator Ron Wyden on this one because holy crap, this was like a genius move. So Senator Wyden's office got tipped off a year ago that there is a gag order in place for Apple and Google that they can't reveal the amount of requests law enforcement or foreign governments are making for push notifications. So that is to say, not the content of a push notification per se, but the metadata of it, of say what device it's coming from or what account it's coming from and what account it's going to, and the time that it occurs. So, you know, because Apple and Google both in their push notification systems, they act as a middleman, so they would have that information. So anyway, after Senator Wyden's office got to investigating this to a satisfactory degree, the senator basically blew the whistle by saying to the Department of Justice that the people have a right to know to what extent the information requests are made of Apple. Since the practice of this is now known to be going on, it essentially doesn't matter what the Department of Justice says. It's now public knowledge that this practice occurs at all. So Apple can disclose it in its annual privacy report. At least Apple can disclose how many times it's requested by law enforcement or foreign government. It's not an out-and-out win for privacy advocates, but any degree of law enforcement transparency is still a win in my opinion. And keeping in the privacy and security theme, now might be a good time to turn on advanced data protection. An Apple study reveals that 2.6 billion personal data records are stolen in data breaches. And this is again coming from 9to5Mac, but I am also including Apple's 20-page PDF report. They are titled it, The Continued Threat to Personal Data, Key Factors Behind the 2023 Increase. So the whole 20-page report from Apple is here. If you're a security and privacy nerd, please go read it. It's very interesting. If you're not, read the first 3 pages. That's the executive summary. Just read that and you'll understand the highlights. So in short, though, due to the ever-expanding global threat to our online security, we all need to be prepared to use end-to-end encrypted on all of our devices. Some things, like iMessage, iCloud Keychain, and health data, already have this on and have for years. But if you want to safeguard yourself, turn on advanced data protection. Getting everything you can encrypted and keep your recovery phrase safe. Put it in a safety deposit box, safe in your house or something. There's a lot of options out there. Find the one or ones that work best for you. I'm not going to share my methodology because, well, the less an attacker knows about you, the harder it is for them to attack you. But do some research and find out what good methods are and what works best for you. Everybody operates a little bit different. There's different threat models. Everybody's brain works a little different. So I'm not going to suggest any one size fits all kind of solution for you, but look into it if you're concerned about it. Moving on to some corporate shakeup at Apple. Apple's chief iPhone and Apple Watch designer is leaving the company, again from 9to5Mac. The super short version of this is that one of the main hardware design leaders is leaving in February, and rumors coming through Bloomberg are stating that there's going to be more leadership shakeups due to retirements over the coming year. While I am interested to see what the Apple Watch design team being under the leadership of the Mac hardware executive will look like, I'm more hoping over the next year or two we'll see a refinement of the iPad lineup. I mean, seriously, Apple, cut that thing down to the iPad SE, the iPad, and the iPad Pro. Get rid of the iPad Air. We don't need that. And you can make all of these models into mini variants without reducing the price on them. So this is a win for you. Come on, guys, get it together. Like, prices are going up. Just have an iPad SE for, $379, and then have an iPad SE Mini, which is the exact same thing but in a smaller form factor, also for $379. Like, right? Like, we can make this work, couldn't we? Anyway, sorry, going on a tangent there. Apple Podcast app is launching on Tesla vehicles next week, which is this week if you're listening to it on Sunday. I don't have a Tesla, but if I did, the most important parts are there. The library and listen now tabs, which will include the synced up next queue, and the playback state is synced across all devices, which is all I've ever wanted from a podcast app, and no one has done it like Apple Podcasts. I don't care who you are or where you're from. I've tried dozens of them, paid, free, open source. None of them are as consistent as Apple Podcasts. I'm glad Apple and Tesla are partnering up on this. It's great. And our last story for the day, iPhone 16 batteries should preferably be made in India, Apple tells its suppliers. This is the last one, and I'll comment on here that this is exactly like I opined a couple months ago. Apple is and will continue to diversify its supply chain away from China. Watch for more and more devices to be coming out, from places like India or Vietnam, and over the next few years, maybe even the good old US of A. So that's it, everybody. I hope you've enjoyed it. Have yourselves a great upcoming week. I might be doing some more Sonic Dream Team over the coming week. It seems to be doing well, so I think I'm going to continue playing that. Questions, comments down below. Like, subscribe. I appreciate you all. You make this worth doing. I mean, I enjoyed doing this already, but knowing that there's a community out there who are willing to talk and communicate and just kind of gather around these topics just kind of energizes you a little bit, So anyway, thank you again, everybody. Have a good one, and I will see you all in the next video, or at least I'll talk to you all. I don't think I see any of you. No, I'll talk to you all in the next video. Take care now. Bye-bye.